Good evening, everyone. We're going to do the show a little bit different than previous shows. It's live right now, and I encourage everyone to share this on the various different platforms that you use on social media. But what we're going to do after the show is we're going to be editing it, getting it down nice and crisp. So this could be used as documents, information, to go after these anti-Semites, and that's what they are. We're going to be talking about tonight Laith Marouf and his organization CMAC, and how they were able to get funding from the Canadian government, the Liberal government of Canada, with the diversity minister, Hussein. Now, before I get into that, I just want to read a tweet from one of the statements made by Laith Marouf. You'll see where I'm going with it. In one tweet, he said, "Life is too short for entertaining Jewish white supremacists with anything but a bullet to the head." Now, let me just go on about this Minister of Diversity. The Minister of Diversity, Ahmed Hussein, he was in a news release that went out in April, supporting the initiative by the government of Canada to actually fund this operation, the Community Media Advocacy Center, located in Montreal. We finally exposed it, and not only us, but there was a number of people on Twitter that I communicate with that had a lot to do with exposing this. It wasn't the major organizations that were behind the investigation, not at all. But we collaborated and we exposed this fully for at least over a week already, and it made it into the media, thank God. After the exposure of what a rabid anti-Semite Laith Marouf is, the Minister of Diversity released a statement. So I'm going to read you the statement. You'll see the absurdity of this statement. Let me just get it. So it's all documented, everything that went on social media to expose Laith Marouf. He's been doing it for years. And by the way, I've been aware of him for about 10 years already. He's a supporter of Hezbollah. He visits Lebanon regularly. I believe he's got a residence in Lebanon, him and his wife, Gretchen King. And anyone who does a little bit of basic homework will see exactly his support for Hezbollah, which is listed as a terrorist organization by the government of Canada, his repeated anti-Semitism, his calls for violence. So here's the statement after it was fully exposed by Ahmed Hussein. "Anti-Semitism has no place in this country. The anti-Semitic comments made by Laith Marouf are reprehensible and vile. We have provided notice to the Community Media Advocacy Center, CMAC, that their funding has been cut and their project has been suspended." Now, just understand, they've been getting funding for 3 years already. Lots of money from the government. "We call on CMAC, an organization claiming to fight racism and hate in Canada, to answer how they came to hire Laith Marouf and how they plan on rectifying the situation given the nature of his anti-Semitic and xenophobic statements. We look forward to a proper response on their next steps and clear accountability regarding this matter. I want to assure Canadians that our government has and will continue to fight anti-Semitism and hate in all its forms." Okay, so let me point something out. Number one, CMAC. Who runs CMAC and who controls CMAC and who owns CMAC? It's run, it's owned, and it's operated by the two senior consultants, Laith Marouf and his wife, Gretchen King / Marouf. They operate it. She signs the documents. All this has been made public on social media as well. The Minister of Diversity is asking Laith Marouf and his wife to investigate why they hired Laith Marouf. That's the absurdity of the whole thing. But it gets even more convoluted. It gets more convoluted because I've been following the Minister of Diversity because I monitor many of the BDS organizations in Canada. I can't claim to investigate every single one because I'm not sure about every single one. Some could be very hidden. But certainly the major BDS organizations in Canada, I have been investigating for a long time. And I came across a number of years ago that the Minister of Diversity, Ahmed Hussein, posed for a picture with Melinda Gallo from CJPME, one of the main organizations in Canada. And Miranda Gallo has made videotapes on YouTube for CJPME, encouraging people to go to department stores and to seek out Israeli products and put BDS stickers on. That's what she has done for a long time. She's on record doing that. So here we have the meme on the screen right now of Ahmed Hussein in a picture with Miranda Gallo from CJPME, who that's what she's known for, promoting to target Israeli products in department stores here in. Now, somebody could say, there could be a critic that could say, okay, well, he's on the campaign trail and anybody could take a photo with them and he has, you can't accuse him of that. Okay, perhaps, but there's a bit of a trail here. Ahmed Hussein was at a Liberal Party barbecue with another member of parliament who is very vicious against Israel, who actually heads a committee to bash Israel. He was at the barbecue and he was wearing a Palestinian scarf. Okay, that's what he was doing. He was wearing a Palestine scarf when he was there. The picture is there on the screen for everyone to see as well. That's what he did. Another issue that I take that I have a major problem with. Major problem is that there was an Al Jazeera journalist who was killed in Jenin. Now, the Israeli army or Israeli security forces entered into Jenin in pursuit of terrorists. Now, let me put a little bit of context to this. I was in Israel at the time. And prior to that, there were 4 major terrorist attacks that occurred. The first one was in Beersheba. The next one was in Hadera. The next one was in Tel Aviv. In fact, I visited the monument for the victims of the terrorist attack in Tel Aviv at the time, the next day. And the 4th major terrorist attack occurred in Elad, a town called Elad, which is not too far from Tel Aviv, in fact. And in Elad, this is what occurred. This is what occurred. You had Arabs from an Arab town, and I believe it was Jenin, in fact, that wanted to go into Israel to work, construction. And these 2 Arabs had a regular contact that they would call a Jewish guy who lives in Elad, and they'd pay him a fee, sort of like a taxi fee, to transport them in. And the Jewish guy thinks he's doing a wonderful deed. I'm making a few extra bucks being a driver. They're going to the construction site. They're making some money. Everybody's happy. What he didn't realize is that these 2 terrorists took out axes and hacked his body to death. Then they proceeded to hack other Jews to death in Elad. When these attacks occurred, these 4 attacks occurred in Israel, there were celebrations in Arab towns throughout Judea and Samaria, what they refer to as the West Bank. In Jenin, there were incredible celebrations going on with fireworks, giving out candies and sweets to people who were passing by. Masses of people celebrating the murder of Jews. The IDF, the Israeli security forces, had to do what they have to do. they have to pursue the terrorists, the operation, those behind it, those who are plotting more terrorist attacks. So they entered into Jenin. They entered into Jenin, and while there's a crossfire of bullets flying both ways, there's a journalist from Al Jazeera that gets killed in the crossfire. Ahmed Hussein calls for an independent, he was outraged. He's calling for an independent investigation. In other words, he doesn't trust an Israeli investigation. Now, again, I was there. I saw the celebrations, the viciousness going on, the vile anti-Semitism going on, and the calls for murder of Jews. And there was no outrage from Minister of Diversity Ahmed Hussein when Jewish blood was happening. Nothing. But the BDS was making noise, and everybody was calling for, and then we can't trust the Israeli investigators, the Palestinian Authority. They were right on top of that, saying, no, they're not going to share the bullet with the Israeli government. They don't trust the Israelis, all that. Nobody cared that Jews were being killed. 2,600 journalists were murdered. Not murdered, excuse me, were killed in the line of reporting in conflict zones, in war zones, in the past, I believe, 20 years, something like that. It could be 30 years even, 2,600. 2,600, that's not a small number. There is all for any independent investigation. There is no holding to account any country in that. Only Israel has the double standards applied to that. And what that means with that double standard is that is blatant anti-Semitism. According to the IRA definition of anti-Semitism, the double standards, holding Israel to different standards than anyone else, that is blatant anti-Semitism. So when the Minister of Diversity puts out a tweet and calls for an independent investigation, that's what it, and he's outraged about it, that's what it's about. You put it all together, and he's wearing the Palestine flag, and he's posing for pictures with one of the leaders of the BDS, and he's so happy in April to provide funding for CMAC and their work they're doing under the guise of anti-racism. It's an outrage. Now, there's more. Also, let's bear in mind one other critical point. Laith Marouf doesn't just use the word Zionist. That's what they try to hide behind. No, we're only targeting Zionists. He uses the word Jews. And by the way, there are others that stand in full support of Laith Marouf. Food vendors of insignificant memory. Food vendors is posting on social media that they have to support Laith Marouf. Sure. Okay, so there's more. And a basic search, a basic Google search, like when you're hiring anyone for a job, would show who Laith Marouf is and who his wife Gretchen King is. And her bio is full of anti-Semitism, anti-Israel garbage. Now, I said there's more. This is what there's more. There's an organization that's helping to facilitate speaking tour for Laith Marouf. It's called Anti-Racism Media. And they were helping with a cross-country tour of Laith Marouf and CMAC. Same thing, interchangeable. CMAC, Laith Marouf, Gretchen King, same thing, same people. So anti-racism media, that's something that we have to take notice of, and that's something that we're going to have to investigate. Now, we have some, some Jewish organizations, and I'm not going to mention them by name because I don't want to bash them by name anyways, and I'm not looking to bash. But it's almost like passing the buck when they're calling on the government to hold an independent investigation of how this ended up, how this happened in the first place. I'm not interested in that because I don't trust the government with an independent investigation because of what happened with this scandal, because of the associations of Minister of Diversity, and it's been going on, and he just got caught. And it ends up also that a Jewish member of Parliament who's in Montreal, Anthony Hussein, he's on record saying that he was telling, before this blew up in the media, that he was telling Ahmed Hussein all about it, and that you got to take action now. But the minister waited. So, and he waited because he's on friendly terms with these kinds of people. So, number one, the minister should be fired. That's number one. Number two, we need government funding for us to have our own independent investigation. Now, I have the connections and I know the people on social media that will work hard at this. What we need to do is to fully investigate the anti-racism media. Who's behind it? What the connections are? Who's with it? And we know quite a bit about it. Let me get some information about that. I'll just get it. Let me just pull it up. Just bear with me. Okay. So who follows anti-racism media? I'll just give you a short example. Canadian Association of Journalists, Telefilm Canada, Desmond Cole follows them. There's a TDSB teacher that was exposed for support for the PFLP or promoting materials glorifying the PFLP. He follows them. CKDU 88.FM radio, they follow. There's a reporter with the Toronto Star that follows them. There's a lot of work we have to do. So we can't just say we're going to leave it up to the government to carry out an investigation. This is anti-Semitism that has been festering for a long time. Can you imagine? Can you imagine a BDS person, supporter of Hezbollah, talking about putting a bullet in the head of Jews and getting paid for it? And having a speaking tour set up by a so-called anti-racism media group going across Canada? So we're going to work on this. And we're going to expose whatever members of parliament are involved with this as well. We're also going through the Freedom of Information Act to obtain the documentation, the background documentation of what transpired in all these years. Government to CMAC, funding and communication, back and forth, all of it. We have to have it. We have to have it. We're on top of it. We're doing whatever we can. Let me just see if there's any comments on the side here. Okay, there's a few, just but we addressed it. So there you have it. We have a lot of work to do. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Please share this, but we're going to be editing this and putting it on YouTube as well, so we could send this from our documentation as a reference point for activists, so we can get the job done. There's a lot of work that we have to do. Sorry for bringing this to your attention, but anti-Semitism is vile in Canada, and we just can't fall asleep at the switch. This is a warning to Jews. This is a warning. The days of Stephen Harper as Prime Minister are over. This government turns a blind eye to anti-Semitism. They really do. They really do. And the double standards. And again, let me emphasize again, the terrorist attacks that happen in Israel, and no one says anything. But the reporter from Al Jazeera, because it involves Israel, there's the outrage. In this regard, there are 2,600 journalists holding it to a different standard, complete anti-Semitism. We're working hard. We're getting the job done. On a brighter note, Israel's to develop oil, gas rather, in the Mediterranean. The Kerry field should be operational. They'll be sending gas to Europe. It's a major development for Israel. Israel is on the verge of becoming a major superpower in the Middle East. Great for us. We'll see what this does once the gas starts flowing into Europe. I believe that Europeans are going to start really turning against the BDS in a big way because they just want to have their homes warm, and that's what they'll do. People just most people have a me attitude. That's exactly what it will be. But good for Israel. Israel's a success. Israel is a diamond in the Middle East. So look, we're working hard. I want to encourage everyone, support Israel Now. Go to our website, make a donation, or also send us an email that you want to get involved. You want to help out with investigations of these various organizations. We've been doing a lot of work for quite some time. One more point that I want to bring up. It's important. We've been working for a while, Israel Now, to expose the Muslim Association of Canada conference that took place on the July 1st weekend. And what we did, we exposed a lot of the speakers who were, and some in fact support terrorism. So we exposed that. We were just reporting exactly what they said, word for word. And after the event that they had for that weekend, Muslim Association put out a statement condemning our efforts, calling it Islamophobic. The next week, there was a gathering organized by the Muslim Association of Canada at Nathan Phillips Square, City Hall, Toronto, downtown Toronto. And one of the speakers, actually the main speaker for the event, he was also a speaker at the conference. He had a record saying that Islam is the religion of resistance. He's had more statements than just that. But also speaking at the event was Diversity Minister Ahmed Hussein. And Ahmed Hussein there condemned Islamophobia. Now, I want some clarification. Is he standing by the statement by the Muslim Association of Canada condemning our efforts for exposing anti-Semitism and support for terrorism by a lot of the speakers who were at that conference? And I would have rather that the Muslim Association of Canada would have canceled those speakers and gone on a more positive way, and a way of, let's say, embracing the Abraham Accords so we could finally break bread together. The minister condemns Islamophobia, was agreeing with the statement from the Muslim Association of Canada. You know, when I look at his involvement in so much, I think that's what it is. Or that's another reason for an independent grassroots investigation of what's going on here. And I don't think he's suitable for his position. Please get involved with Israel Now. Go to our website, israelnow.ca, make a donation, also send us an email, get involved with us. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Thank you very much. Again, we're going to be editing this and putting it up on YouTube. Thank you very much.